maybe you haven't been paying attention to every single daily training camp report. Maybe you're parachuting in and you want to know what you need to know about the Eagles heading into the 2024 season. That's what we've got coming up today on the PHLY Eagles Show, plus little Ospreys tease for the sickos. Coming up next. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the PHLY Eagles podcast, presented by Bet365. Download the Bet365 app and use code PHLY365 when you sign up, and find out why it is never ordinary at Bet365, and it's never ordinary on the PHLY Eagles Show when we've got Handsome Rich in the studio. Zach Berman out on assignment. He wants to keep that very mysterious. He wants everybody to be guessing what he's doing, where he is. He also wants you to know he would never just skip an episode for no reason. So rest assured, he is working hard. We won't talk about where he is. How you doing, Handsome Rich?
Do you think, Bo, I'm doing great. Do you think he's workshopping headlines in this mysterious place?
Berman absent. That's a good idea.
Look,
now you come from a newspaper family. A tabloid family.
Yes.
First of all, did you take offense that Zach went to the New York paper as opposed to the Philadelphia Daily News as his point of reference? And two, growing up in that family, did you feel like you were workshopping headlines often?
Yes, I was offended.
Okay.
Come on.
Yeah,
what are we doing?
Absolutely. The guy's supposed to be a local guy above all else.
The People paper. I mean, ZB, I don't know if he actually said this, but he was probably reading the Daily News in the cafeteria along with Bill Simmons and 8,000 other things.
Maybe he had his nose up high reading the Inquirer instead.
Yes. So that's number one. Number two, I will say the art of headline writing, it's tougher than you think. I will. Now, look, is Zach maybe a fifth percentile headline writer, a third percentile headline writer? Probably yes. But I do think it is a learned skill. And I do remember like the guy, I believe his name is Doug Derrick, who did all of the Daily News back pages and front pages. Like that guy, it was basically his job, I think, for a long time.
Yeah.
And he would go to the head editors and he would like spit out like 10 good suggestions and they would get to pick from them. But basically they just had him on ice ready to go.
I love that.
So they knew, we're not going to screw it up.
He's like walking around town and just like shouting out different exclamations for things that he sees on the street.
Yeah. One of my favorite ones, Bo, I think the Flyers played a really crappy game on Cinco de Mayo and he came up with Stinko de Flyo.
Stinko de Flyo,
yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, that was a really good one. But anyway, that's the type of stuff you were getting every day. It wasn't like, Berman on assignment or, Bo Rich podcast.
Yes.
Tuesday.
Here's my headline story. My wife and I, we first met in an editing class in college, and there was one night. It was one of those meets once a week. It's like a 2.5 hour class, and one of the things was we were doing headlines, and the story was about the Mattel company discontinuing the Ken doll, and it was like go around the room, come up with a headline for this, and everything was very dry. It was like, it was like the Berman style. It was like Mattel discontinuing Ken, all this stuff, and then mine was. Barbie tells Ken, "It's not you, it's me." killed the room, and that's the moment, as we like to tell the story, that I won Rachel over.
Oh, that's unbelievable!
So it's a headline. It's a headline that got me in.
Oh, that's amazing. How long did you have to think of that headline?
Oh, on the spot. I mean, maybe 5 minutes, less than that. Yeah.
Wow, unbelievable. That's I don't have anything more to add to that. That's I would not have come up with.
So listen, for all the aspiring romantics out there, work on your headlines.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, why not? All right.
Did you like those night classes, by the way, those once a weekers?
I did.
I did too.
I did. Yeah.
People complained about those, but like they gave you a nice break in the middle of it, and
Yeah, I wouldn't want it for a morning or like a middle of the day, but
No,
as
night
like
class.
give me a night class, and knock it off for once a week. I think that's a good deal. Yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah. All right. The conceit of the show today, everybody, is let's take a little bit of a step back from everything that's going on every day. Who's at right guard? Who's the second team linebacker today? All that stuff. Although later in the show, I can give you the updates from today's practice, which was interesting, but not super interesting. I want to take a little bit of a 10,000-foot view for the, I think casuals is too hard of a word, but the people who are maybe just beginning to check in and maybe you don't have the time to find out what's going on in practice every day. What do you really need to know? And so you are our proxy for that, Rich. You have come up with some questions about the team, and let's unpack them and see where this team stands. What are the things that people really need to know?
Yeah, Bo, I consider myself a sicko, but I will say, like, I just don't have the ability to watch these guys every day. Frankly, I'm not sure I would know what I was watching anyway. I think it does take a ZB or Bo kind of trained eye, somebody who's been there multiple
An astute
years.
observer of practice, as one is described.
Yeah, and honestly, when I would go to those practices, man, today would have been a beautiful day for a practice, just low humidity. I was just trying to not sweat. I was going into the shade.
So bad.
So even if I was there, to be honest, I wasn't really. I didn't have my eyes trained on one-on-ones like you or secondary like Zach. So again, I've been reading, I've been listening, but you've been watching, and I think that's more valuable. So let's start. I have a question for pretty much every unit of the team. And the first one, let's start with the big one. Everything I read says that Jalen Hurts looks pretty good. Pretty consistent every day. Obviously, the no interceptions there's been much made about that. And I guess my question is, like, as somebody who's watched a lot of training camps, as somebody who's watched Jalen Hurts in a few training camps by now, like, how much can we read into the idea that he's been sharp in training camp?
I think this is a good question. It's obviously probably the most important question of the season, right? What is Jalen Hurts really going to look like? I think that the degree to which people are talking about, Jalen has been amazing, like no interceptions, is a little bit overstated. I think Jalen has been very good. I don't think he's been as good as he was in 2022, that training camp, when, the introduction of A.J. Brown to the offense was this like unbelievable thing. And still, every single day, if Jalen Hurts wants to throw the ball to A.J. Brown, he can do that pretty easily, right? There was a fun play today that was a situational thing, and it was the Eagles are out of timeouts on offense. The defense is down by 3 points, right? I think it's like 3rd and 5 on their own 25, something like that. And it's one of those plays where, like, if it's a real game, you get the first down, the game is over. Like, you get the 2-minute warning, you get the kneel on, and it's over. And if not, all of a sudden the other team's got a chance. And 3rd and 5, I'm expecting, like, here comes a QB draw. Like, well, let's do something safe to keep the clock running. Or here comes a quick pass to Saquon Barkley, something, or a quick pass to Devontae Smith. And instead, which I liked, it was a little bit like that Seattle game. Took a shot deep to A.J. Brown, dropped it in a bucket, very tight coverage from Quinyon Mitchell, and A.J. hauls it in. And that's the end of the game. Like, nice throw from Jalen. He still got those downfield passes. And that's the thing of, like, the no interceptions. Well, how do you balance that versus he being appropriately greedy downfield?
Yeah, absolutely.
And I think for the most part he has been. But I think the thing that stops me from, as I said on Anthony's show this morning, getting the popsicles out for Jalen for the summer is the last week especially, it has seemed like the timing has not quite been there. The ball is not always coming out on time. Now, some of that is because the offensive line has had some injuries, and if you've got Fred Johnson and Brett Toth at right guard, that's a little bit different than having Lane Johnson and
for sure.
and Mekhi Becton. And the defensive line deserves credit for that too. But I think early on, what was so impressive was that the ball was always coming out on time. And even if it was a check down to Saquon, it was coming out in rhythm. It was 1, 2, here the ball comes out. And there's been a little bit more holding of the ball lately. And so a lot of this is just, what is the offense going to look like? How different is it going to be? And in terms of handling the blitz, the thing that killed them down the stretch last season, I have not seen enough right now to think that they have solved that. So there's still very much wait and see for me from the Jalen Hurts perspective.
I would say the two things that I would want to see the most is, they handle the blitz well. And honestly, he's throwing the ball over the middle more. And I actually remember ZB saying, I think it was after the New England joint practice, that he thought it was the most Kellen Moore-ish practice of the offseason. I guess, like, are you seeing any difference in how they are operating? Or if not, is there a degree of just like Nick Sirianni just doesn't want to show anything until the first week? He values the first week too much. So I guess, like, are you seeing any sort of newness both with Hurts and the entire offense?
I mean, certainly the motion is a difference. They were last in the league in motion last year. We've seen a lot of motion. Some of it seems, and Kellen Moore talked about this today, sometimes it's just eye candy. It's just a distraction. Sometimes it's to give you a tell. Sometimes it's actually creating an advantageous matchup for you. I think some of it seems like it has just been eye candy, but that's fine.
Yeah.
So that's new. There's been a little bit more under center, which is welcome, I guess. I think if like, what are the things that really matter? What really matters, I would say one thing is that he does look healthier than he was last season, and they have been willing to call like quarterback runs, right?
Yeah.
And if the offense is going to be a top 5 offense, an offense that carries this team deep into the playoffs, I think it needs to be inclusive of that, because that's what makes the offense special. And so as long as Jalen is healthy, I think they're showing a willingness to do that. So I do think that matters.
Okay. You do think he looks faster than last year?
Than last year, yes.
Yeah. All right. Well, that's good. That's really important, because it just felt like he was a step slow, whatever injury he was dealing with, and that, whatever that percentage was, it did feel like that was meaningful.
And then today, I will say, and again, I don't want to get bogged down into the details of a single day, but there were a couple plays today. You talked about throwing over the middle, where in rhythm he's throwing to Grant Calcaterra or even CJ Uzama, and that to me is one of the big questions about Jalen taking the next step. Is he just going to be willing to throw the ball to guys who are not, Devontae Smith and AJ Brown and Dallas Goedert? And I think that would just change the shape of the offense so much.
Makes sense. All right. Question number 2.
Okay.
I thought heading in, this was going to be the summer of Saquon. Thought there was going to be a love fest every day. Oh man, look at this new toy that Jalen has to throw the ball to. And I guess, at least reading the coverage, it has not felt exactly that way. Sure, there have been a couple wheel routes he scored touchdowns on, but honestly, the day where both, I think, on the podcast and in reading, a lot of the practice reports, that he sort of flashed was in blitz pickup against Devin White. And I think you and a few other of the beats were basically like, no, he was really awesome at that. Like, that was impressive, considering Devin White, what a good blitzer he is. So I guess, like, and I understand he's probably been on a pitch count at different points too. Is this just an element of, like, hey, in these practices when they're not tackling for the most part, like, he can't really show what he can do, or is there something else there?
Now, this is one where I think Zach might disagree.
Yeah, that's why I asked you.
I would say I have been a little bit underwhelmed, just a little bit, by like the juice.
Yeah.
And you're right. Like, I was expecting there to be much more of a summer of Saquon type vibe. The pass blocking stuff is great. That's, he is awesome at that. There's no doubt about that. It is hard because they're not tackling, and because, especially if it's an inside run, in real life, it's awesome if he turns a 3-yard run into an 8-yard run, but you have no way of telling that.
Can't tell.
In this. And there have been a couple plays where I have seen like the spark. There have been a couple ones where, and one of the plays you've seen a lot this summer is like the Jalen Hurts. It's like the read. There's a pulling guy that it looks like he's going to take it, and then he hands it off to Saquon. And he's going the other way, and there's a different puller out in front, and he hits the corner and looks explosive. There have been a couple of those, and him as a receiver, I am generally a little skeptical that it's going to be as big of an impact as the Eagles would tell you that it's going to be, just because I need to see Jalen do that, and I think that is often overstated. Like, it's much easier said than done to have like a Christian McCaffrey level impact as a running back, as a receiver. But like, there was the wheel route touchdown against the Patriots, and there have been I was thinking about this today. There have not been a ton of like running back screens. It has been much more just Saquon out of the backfield in sort of a swing pass type situation or a check down or just one of those little arrow routes over the middle. And I think that will be a big part of his role. But I have not seen like LaShawn McCoy making people miss, in space, or him just like beating guys to the edge all that often. So, these are not live. I hope that when the pads are on, he looks a little bit different. But I think part of the appeal of Saquon is more the volume you can give him, as opposed to like the play-by-play supercharged splash.
Well, but that was part of the reason he was so great earlier in his career was the splash plays,
both,
right?
yeah.
And now if we're being sold like, okay, what he's going to actually do is turn a 5-yard run into a 9 or 10-yard run, which is
I don't think,
valuable.
I don't know if they would sell it that way, but yeah.
But well, we'll see. That's what it is.
I think the bigger because they're not live, it is hard to tell. I don't want to be unfair, but I have not been like blown away at the athleticism.
That's fair. And that's true. Like I remember watching some of those LaShawn McCoy practices. I mean, obviously Deshaun Jackson's a receiver and that's different, but like, obviously when you're not tackling, you can only do so much. Sometimes those guys would just run away from people though. And, honestly, like the few fans that are on the sidelines would like, ooh and ah, they could even see like, ooh, that was different. He's moving at a different pace or he's juking at a different pace, whatever it is. So haven't seen too many of those
moments have been few and far between.
Yeah. Okay. Well, hopefully they happen in Brazil. All right.
Fair enough. Why don't you give me one more and then we'll get to our first.
Okay, yeah, because this is a two-parter. For wide receivers. So do you think third receiver is the biggest weak spot on the team? And I guess I will frame it this way. Obviously, if you got, Fred Warner at linebacker, that would make a huge difference. But I'm putting it this way. If the Eagles could get a league average starter at any position, the 14th to 19th best player at that specific position, which position makes the biggest difference? And how high does wide receiver 3 rank there?
I think it's a real concern. I think if I'm playing the game of you can guarantee league average play, I think I might still take corner.
Yeah.
Just because it's such an unknown with what they have right now. Like Darius Slay at 33 years old, Quinion Mitchell as a rookie, Keely Ringo as a second-year player, Isaiah Rodgers as something of an unknown. Those guys have had a very good summer, but I think you would lock in league average play on the outside if you could take it. And then I think right guard would be in the conversation as well. You would think that if you are league average or above at 4 of the other 5 spots, that should fortify you well enough. But I think if you could lock it in, you would consider that. But if you could lock in like the 20th best in the league at any position, it might be wide receiver 3. Like if they could just get some competency there, I think that would go a long way. And I do think it's a real concern in the offense, not just because what if something happens to Devontae Smith and A.J. Brown, because that's a real concern. Those guys have been pretty lucky injury-wise so far. And if one of them goes down, especially A.J. Brown, like what does the offense look like? But like it's just bizarre to me from an organization that we knows that offense matters most.
Yeah.
And the offense, like the whole structure of the team right now is let's make the defense league average. Let's let them just tread water and let the offense take over. That they haven't done anything here, and there's still time. Maybe Howie pulls his C.J. Gardner-Johnson move here, or maybe it's something a little bit lower level. But right now, if they go into week 1 with some kind of Parris, Campbell, Johnny Wilson, Britton Covey rotation, it's not going to kill them, but it changes the ceiling of the offense so much. And they went to the Super Bowl with Quez Watkins, right? You can tell me that argument. That's fine. He was just providing a service as taking the top off the defense. They don't even have that guy right now. Like Johnny Wilson can block, great. Britton Covey, I think, can make some stuff happen as a slot receiver. But from a searching for upside standpoint, don't you want that guy who's going to be on the field 75% of the time to give you a little bit more? Yeah, I think they are really missing something.
You scared me with that Patriots take a few weeks ago that it's AJ and Devontae up here.
And then it's like six guys.
And then it's 6 guys before you get to the next Eagle. That's a little bit scary. And I mean, again, like this is part of, I think, Jalen's, like you already mentioned this, his growth is like, are you willing to throw to the guy who is not AJ Brown or Devontae Smith if the guy is wide freaking open and can make a play? So I don't know. And
is it a concern to you?
Yeah, I mean, I guess. I mean, I think it's like you said, it's a starting position, right? If nickel corner is essentially a starting position on defense, slot receiver is a starting position on offense. And again, like how many times did I, get mad last year because of Quez Watkins' usage, right? And so I think you would rather have a competent player. And I also just go back to when they won the Super Bowl, like they had 3 receivers that were like, good, Like I know Torrey Smith was not as good as AJ or Devontae, but they had 3 guys who were competent, and their slot receiver had the best season of his career, right? And they were very hard to defend. And I just go back to the fact that they felt pretty unpredictable at that point. So I'm with you. Yeah, I guess before training camp, I did not really think that this was that big of an issue. But as this has gone along, and as you and plenty of other people have highlighted this, I am more concerned about it now, for sure.
I think I do expect them to do something here, just because it's so glaring. And like some of the shots that they took, Devontae Parker, Zach is driving off the road listening to it right now. How dare you bring up that name? Parris Campbell. Those guys have not really worked out. Like I don't see a ton of juice in Parris Campbell's legs. John Ross, like a little bit more juice, but not to a functional degree. So I think they may end up doing something.
That was the second part of the question. Do you think you're C.J. Gardner-Johnson, Ronald Darby? Do you think if you had to put any money on what position that happens at, would it be wide receiver or would it be somewhere else?
I think it would be wide receiver.
Okay.
I think I could see them making a move at offensive line, just because the depth is a little bit of a concern to me. And I don't know that I would see somewhere else. I mean, I think they may claim a third tight end or something like that, maybe a defensive tackle. But I think they have actually been pleasantly surprised by their depth there. I think wide receiver, offensive line, tight end. That's what I would say.
That makes sense.
Quickly, a super chat from David, who says, "Do you think the Eagles would have signed Saquon if Kelce hadn't retired? Is Saquon something of a buffer for worrying about not having Kelce? Maybe the tush push is involved there. What do you think?"
I don't know. Do you think maybe financially Kelce would have cost more money than Jurgens did? Is that part of it too? I understand the point of the question.
Yeah.
In that,
no, that's fair though.
Your blocking's not going to be as good. Can Saquon make up some of those yards? I understand the idea there.
I think if assuming that the finances worked out, I think they probably still would have been interested, but maybe it pushed the needle in that direction. I have a related question. Do you think that there's so much like the Jets are such morons for making this Hassan Reddick
way
trade.
Too much,
and that's true. But like the Eagles didn't necessarily get one over on the Jets, right? It still was only a 3rd round pick. If the Eagles had not traded Hassan Reddick, knowing that he wanted a new deal, knowing that he was just going to hold out, and carried that holdout into the summer, and still had Bryce Huff, do you think they would have? And we're like, okay, we're telling the league, okay, we're going to trade Hassan Reddick to whoever wants him, and we'll pay him this summer. Don't you think it would have worked out about the same?
Yeah, and I completely agree with. I think you said this like last week. As much as I like making fun of the Jets here, and we can make fun of them all they want because this is like day one GM stuff. Like if you're going to trade for a guy who's unhappy for his contract, you have to have the contract in place for him. But I don't feel better about the Eagles because of this trade. Like they're probably going to get a 3rd round pick in a couple years for this. So the Jets are incompetent. I will say, I'm looking at so many of these holdouts around the league. I do like that the Eagles have everybody there. And how much will that matter in November and December when all these guys are signed and they're back in shape and ready to play? I don't know, but I do like the fact that you have the 49ers, the Cowboys, a bunch of these other teams, the Jets, that have like real distractions right now, and the Eagles do not have that. So that's been a good thing.
Yeah, I think I generally lean towards like the distraction stuff is overblown. But if you're making that case, like they've got 2 new coordinators, like they're putting in new schemes, it does sort of a little bit of a difference, you would think, that they have the guys here. Yeah. All right, let's talk about our friends Splash at Bet365, because it's never ordinary with Bet365. They've got 90 million users worldwide. The Bet365 live streams include over 780,000 events each year, with early payout offers across the NBA, NFL, NHL, and MLB. Bet365 pioneered live in-game betting, and today Bet365 offers the widest range of games and markets available for live in-game betting across 78 different sports. Can you even name 78 different sports? Zach cannot. Zach can only name football, baseball, basketball, hockey, and soccer. At Bet365, we don't do ordinary. We believe every sport should be epic. Right now, new customers, can get $150 in bonus bets when you bet just $5. Use the code PHLY365 to sign up. Deposit $10 and claim your offer today. You've also got the same game parlays and the boosts, all kinds of incentives that will get you a little extra money if you win. Download the Bet365 app. Use code PHLY365 when you sign up, and check out our boosts to see why it's never ordinary at Bet365. Must be 21 or older and physically located in Pennsylvania. If you or someone you know has a gambling problem and wants help, call or text 1-800-GAMBLER. Bada bing, bada boom. And then we move on to our friends at Rite Aid. Now, is this a specific Rite Aid read or just general? I get to pick. Should I go for the fall allergy, the LO Market, the pharmacy services, or the refreshery? Why don't we do the pharmacy services? Because with a My Pharmacy account at Rite Aid, you can refill your prescriptions, schedule a vaccine, get personalized care recommendations, sign up for prescription notifications. All you need to get started is a prescription at Rite Aid. Get started at riteaid.com/mypharmacy. Stop stressing over those prescriptions, because when you enroll with My Pharmacy, you get the automated courtesy refills. You can talk to a Rite Aid pharmacist or sign up through your My Pharmacy account, and you can sync with other family members, so it's one trip to the pharmacy instead of having to go when this one's ready. You got to worry about it. No. One trip, make your life a lot easier. Transfer your prescriptions to Rite Aid today. Just go to riteaid.com/transfer. Rite Aid caring pharmacists are ready to answer your questions and help you stay healthy. Get your prescriptions along with anything at Rite Aid you may need, including over-the-counter medicines, household products, cosmetics, and more. Just ask your pharmacy team for details. Restrictions apply. Now, some people in the comments, some of the sickos, have already noticed this, that if you go to allphly.com now and you are a diehard, you have an opportunity to vote on some of the categories for the 7th annual Osprey Awards, which are coming to you Thursday at 2 o'clock. This is the first time we have ever done this. You get to vote on the Ospreys. Fantastic. Happy for you. So go, if you are a diehard, check on that. And then when we are done with this conversation today, we're going to unveil some of those categories at the end of the show. So stay tuned for that. All right, what do we got next, Mr. Handsome Rich?
All right, tight ends. I got nothing for tight ends. It would be a nice story if E.J. Jenkins makes the team. That's all I got, really. Do you have anything?
I'm rooting for E.J. Jenkins. He was back at practice today, I can tell you, and was working in on occasion with the ones and twos. I think he's got a shot, but I don't think that anything is guaranteed there.
Okay.
And I will tell you what, I think that Grant Calcaterra has looked solid as a number 2 tight end. I think they will be okay there.
That seems to be the gist of what people are saying. Okay, offensive line. 3 questions for the offensive line. First one.
My kind of. This is the meat of the show, baby.
Yep. And we're going to get more and more bow-pilled as we go along. Let's start with one of the frontline guys. Cam Jurgens. How do you feel about him? I guess here's why I'm saying this. Because on one hand, like Jason Kelce, I think we all know he was a guy who retired still at the top of his game and still with, somebody who knows all the tricks of the trade. And I think a lot of people have kind of wondered, like, yeah, if Cam Jurgens is good, he still might not be up to the level of Jason Kelce just from an experience standpoint, right? Somebody who knows how to control the entire offensive line. On the other hand, Bo, I've seen a lot of, I would say, national people hand-wringing about the Jason Kelce absence. And I would say, like, Cam Jurgens is not a fifth-round rookie who is replacing him at this point.
Yeah.
He is a second-rounder who has a lot of the physical attributes of Jason Kelce.
This is year 3.
Who has not only watched Jason Kelce, he has played next to him, he's talked to him, he's done all that stuff. So where do you feel how do you feel about Cam Jurgens after watching him in this camp?
It's a good framing, and part of that is like this is what the plan was all along, right? This was the apprenticeship, 2 years, as you said, once watching behind, once playing next to him. This is what he was drafted to do, drafted highly to do.
As far as succession plans go,
he should be good.
Yeah.
Right? If they have gotten the evaluation correct, he should hit the ground running here. Mm-hmm. I've been thinking about Cam Jurgens from the standpoint of not like replacing Kelce, but from for 15 years or so, I have basically only known one kind of center in Kelce, and not even from a physical standpoint, but from this is the quarterback of the offensive line standpoint, right? This is the eyes and ears. This is like the leader of that group. And yeah, like Jason Peters was there in those times, and maybe he was the best player, and he was an awesome mentor with like younger players. And there's Lane Johnson, who's been awesome. But it felt for a very long time that like it was Jason Kelce's offensive line. Yep. Does Cam Jurgens have to be the dominant personality of that group now when you have not only Lane, but like Landon Dickerson has a lot of that in him. Jordan Mailata has a lot of that in him as well. Like, can the center be more of a wallflower? I don't know.
Is he going to be on the Christmas album?
Possible, right? Is he going to be on the Christmas album? Would it be a shot across his bow if he's not?
Yeah. Disrespectful.
But
even if he can't sing,
I think that the getting out in the open field, getting to the second level stuff, I think he's going to be great at that.
Yeah.
The pre-snap diagnosis stuff, I think that's a major question. And it's not just a Cam Jurgens question, it's a Jalen Hurts question, right? And Jalen has talked about, I've really been looking forward to this. This is something that I've been, hoping for, and I finally get this. There's no guarantee that they're going to be great at that. And it's one of the reasons why I think you could make an argument that they should have gotten like one series in the preseason. I think that's probably overstated, but when they hit the ground in Sao Paulo, this is going to be the first time that they've done it in a game. And I don't know that it's going to be seamless. I would say that my expectations for Cam Jurgens are that he is a bottom of the top 10 center in the league. I think that's a realistic expectation for him.
Yeah.
And I think that would be good. But there's he was a very up and down player at guard last year, right? Yeah. He started fine and then got injured and was struggled a little bit. This is where he is meant to play. This is where he's supposed to play. I'm bullish that it works out, and I think I've liked what I've seen from him so far. All the guys seem to love him, and they will really dislike any Kelce sort of question. It's all you guys. You guys are putting that on him. Let him be his own guy. But that's obviously a part of it. I think he is wired mentally to handle that fine. He's been around him for a while. But yeah, it is a bit of an unknown.
And this is more of just a comment than a question. I mean, we talk about the mental side of the game. I feel like when they get to Brazil and really first month of the year, they are going to get blitzed a comical amount.
Yeah, good point.
Right. So it's going to be, a pretty steep learning curve, I would say, for him in terms of just getting everybody organized. And, I guess you would hope that Kellen Moore and Jalen Hurts have done their homework. And look, I think I'm a little more positive about that because they literally have been staring at this the entire offseason. They know.
I would hope so.
What is coming. But I think it's going to be. It's going to be hard for him those first couple games. He's going to have to be sharp in terms of how they handle those things.
Super chat from Chase Daniel Plainview, who wants to know if the Eagles might be interested in a Jack Stoll reunion if Joe Shane cuts him. It wouldn't shock me because the one thing you do have to keep in mind is that Jalen trusts Jack. Boy, does he. And so I don't think that they would burn a roster spot on him at this point, but if nobody claims Jack Stoll, he gets I guess he's a veteran now, so he wouldn't even go on waivers. I think they could be practice squad curious.
Yeah. Speaking of Daniel Plainview, Kyle, I saw on Twitter, he was responding to a question. There Will Be Blood
Mm-hmm.
or No Country for Old Men.
No Country for Old Men.
Yeah,
for
me too. It's
Yeah.
it's more exciting.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. I agree. Okay. Good performance though, DDL. And
can't be knocking DDL. Yeah.
no, can't be doing that. Did you ever hear for like he was such a character? He's a method actor.
Yeah.
So basically, like Steven Spielberg for Lincoln would have to be like, okay, cut, Mr. Lincoln. I just find that so bizarre.
It's pretty good. It's also it is funny, especially for someone who is long dead. Like
Yes.
it's like Daniel Plainview is a made up character, right? Like I could see getting yourself into the mind of like, this is who I am. But to know that this is someone who has been dead for a very long time, like you are playing someone else in real life, like that's a little bit more of a stretch. It's a little bit more.
Do you think he called like
a little loony over here?
Do you think he called? I guess it was Sally Field in that movie. Do you think he called her like Mary Todd? Like what I was having? It would just be a very strange work.
Yeah, how far does
environment.
it go? Yeah,
It'd be very weird. Yeah, if he called Joseph Gordon-Levitt's son to that would just be weird. Okay. So I guess and you have a better focus on the entire league. So let's just say the first five guys that the Eagles trot out on opening day.
Yeah.
And the offensive line. Where do you think that group fully healthy ranks league-wide?
Well, like on paper, 6th, something like that.
Yeah.
Some 5th, 6th, 7th, I would say. And I think that's like part of the coming down to earth a little bit for Eagles fans. Like they have had the gift of knowing that it's going to be a good offensive line if everybody's healthy for a very long time. That is not exactly the case right now. And I think there is a real difference between having a top 3 offensive line and like the 8th best offensive line.
And do you think that, because you've mentioned this too, that you think the depth is much worse than it has been in past years? I mean,
it's hard for me to say. It's hard for me to say worse, but it's certainly a bigger question mark. Now, you don't know how good Sua or Jack Driscoll is until they play, right? I think I like Dylan McMahon a lot. I think Trevor Keegan, there are reasons to like him. I think he's been a little bit up and down. I think Fred Johnson, knock on wood, is a fine swing tackle, but I don't know that you really want him in a game necessarily. Tyler Steen, I don't know what to make of. I think that he's looked solid when he's been on the field, but he can't stay on the field. I don't know that they have, there's no big V.
There's no big V.
Yeah.
Exactly. All right. Well, I mean, look, we know that there are never injuries on the offensive line, so I think we're probably going to find that out at some point. Okay. Next one.
Go ahead.
Edge rushers. So let's get rid of the injury potential. This is Madden, and we're turning the injuries off for this one. I would like you to rank these players in terms of the number of snaps they would get over the 17-game season.
Okay.
In alphabetical order: Brandon Graham, Bryce Huff, Jalen Carter, Nolan Smith, Josh Sweat.
I think it is
Huff and Hunt were pretty close there, alphabetically.
Yes. I'm going to take you from the bottom. Jalen Carter is 5th. I think Brandon Graham is 4th.
Okay.
I think Nolan Smith is 3rd. I think that Bryce Huff is 1st and Josh Sweat is 2nd. I think Zach might say opposite. That's just a bet against health. But I think those are the top 2 guys for sure.
Feels like Bryce Huff has played a little bit better over this past week plus.
Yes, than he did in the beginning. Yes, the day of vacation away from having to play against Lane Johnson was very nice for him, and then he looked good in that Patriots game. I think it's reasonable to expect that one of Huff or Sweat is a double-digit sack guy. I think that's what the goal should be for the edge group. One of those 2 guys gets to double digits. The other guys, hovering around 8 or something like that. And I think that Nolan Smith is the X factor. Like if you are just tuning in now, like what should I expect from this guy who was a first-round pick in his 2nd year? I think it's a big question mark. I could be convinced that Nolan Smith's going to have a solid year as like a workman-like guy who has some cleanup sacks, gives you a little bit of value as being able to cover guys out of the backfield, and has 8 sacks or something like that. I think that would be awesome for him. I also wouldn't be shocked if he just looks like he doesn't have the physicality against starting tackles and has a similar season to last year where it's like 2 sacks. I think it's a pretty wide range of expectations.
You already answered my second question. Nolan Smith is the mystery guy to me, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because like I think a lot of people who have even watched the preseason games have said like there's a lot of snaps where he looks completely overmatched here.
He's getting like pancaked by tight ends in run block and run defense. Like,
but then he has a great motor and he also comes up with a sack on other plays too. And he doesn't really have moves, but sometimes he gets to the quarterback. Yeah, I don't know. It just feels like everything he has put on, on the field during training camp and on tape during the games, just feels like, it's like you said, there is a wide range of plays for him. And I guess like, is that a position where you can be so volatile or no? I feel like you probably should be a little more consistent there.
Yeah, you would think. But, I feel like I have been kind of hard on Nolan Smith. Players are allowed to develop. It's not always linear. Sometimes it takes time. And, we talked to Clint Hurt today, and he's bringing up, now he doesn't even coach Nolan Smith, but he's bringing up how he talks to the defensive tackles about Brandon Graham's story. Brandon Graham didn't make a huge impact right away, and now all of a sudden he's the longest tenured Eagle, right? I don't think that Nolan Smith is going down that path necessarily, but the motor matters. It does, and I don't think he's losing that. So, like, there will be times when you're thankful that you have a guy who's running around like a madman, but there will also be times when he's running up against a left tackle and he just gets engulfed, and he stands no chance.
Brandon Graham blocked me for not adding him, but just, I might have had an Earl Thomas tweet about him where I typed out his name. He was, as you remember, earlier in his career, he was very block happy.
Oh, yes.
And then,
which I think is good mental health wise. Yeah.
Yeah.
Block everybody.
Yeah, why not? Yeah, sure. So I could not see his tweets. I believe after the Super Bowl, he unblocked.
He went on a big unblocking. Yeah,
good for him. He's one of my favorite players of all time now.
Yeah, absolutely.
I was a dummy.
All right, let's talk about our friends Splash at True Mark Financial Credit Union. You know what time it is, baby? It's HELOC time. Because the home equity line of credit, HELOC, sounds like a good name for like a defensive line, the HELOCs. Anyway, a HELOC allows homeowners to borrow against home equity with a variable interest rate. Preserve your savings and get access to funds as needed for big renovations, education expenses, or emergencies. Use TrueMark Financial's budgeting tools to save for special purchases like limited edition merchandise. Regular contributions accumulate over time. To reach savings goals effectively, you can transfer as little as $5 a week, and that'll still get you 260 bones, more than enough for a Kelly Green jersey. TrueMark Financial is federally insured by the NCUA and is an equal opportunity lender. For more information, visit truemark.com/PHLY or pop on in to any TrueMark brick and mortar, like where Julia went to school. All right. And finally, let's close this out with a word from our friends at Ace Hardware Home Services. Got a leaky pipe? Tough. At Ace Hardware Home Services, we're around the block with everything you need to fix it, including the person to do the fixings. If you got an air conditioning issue, they got a person for that. Got a faucet that you said that you would fix last fall and you still haven't gotten around to it, they got a person for that too, because now they are not just the helpful hardware folks, they're also the helpful home service and repair folks. From plumbing to heating and cooling, we have the trusted pros to keep you and your home humming all year long. Ace Hardware Home Services, we're bringing helpful home, the helpful you love, from the store now to your front door. Visit Ace Hardware Home Services online at www.acehardwarehomeservices.com to get you started on your next project. All right. How many we got left? 3?
I have 2. Interior line, I couldn't really,
It's okay.
Jalen Carter.
I think that group has some real upside. I'm surprised you don't have a Jalen Carter question, because I think for the casuals, the thing to know is that Jalen Carter could be the best player on the team this year. That is within the realm of possibility.
I guess I just didn't think that was that interesting of a question. So I appreciate you answering it for me right away. Okay, linebackers. Do we have anyone on the roster right now that can get to the TJ Edwards or Nigel Bradham zone? Just competence. I would argue.
I think Nigel's up there.
Yeah, they were good players, both of them.
Nigel especially, in 2017 was fantastic.
But it feels like to me at linebacker, there's like 7 or 8 guys that are like really true difference makers, and then the rest of the teams are just looking for competence, and that can make a huge difference. And a lot of these Eagle seasons have been, can they find at least one of those guys, or can they not from the bargain bin, and with the amount of resources that they spend on it. So I've read a lot. It seems like all of these guys are pretty good blitzers, all of those things. But is there a player in there that you think has a chance to get, let's say, even the TJ Edwards zone?
Yes. And I think the good thing about the group this year is you could convince me that it's going to be any one of 4 guys. And I think that that's much different than last year when it was like you were holding your fingers hoping that somebody would get there. Now, I'm not sure that any of them is going to get there. I think that Devin White certainly has the athletic tools. He has been an up-and-down player over the course of his career. I think you cannot necessarily rely on him to always be in the right place at the right time. I think that there is he is less of the TJ Edwards baseline level of competency type player and more of the Nigel Bradham.
He's got the upside.
He's got some splash
Physical
play
tools,
potential. Yeah. And all of these guys, all 4 of them have some pass rushing chops. So I think that we probably will see Vic Fangio blitz a little bit more this year than he did last year. So Devin White certainly has the physical tools. I'm still pretty skeptical of Zach Baun, but he has looked good this summer, much better and like more instinctive than I was expecting for a guy who has been in the league and not played that position. Nakobe Dean is coming on of late. There are some players in the locker room who have high expectations for him. I talked to Reed Blankenship today, and he was saying that he's expecting a big year from Nakobe Dean, just what he's seen from him all summer. And then I'm still pretty high on Jeremiah Trotter Jr. And I think Jeremiah Trotter Jr. over the course of his rookie contract, I think he will get to that TJ Edwards level, whether it's this year or not. I think that they have that guy there. So I think between those 4 guys, they are a little bit deeper with like potential competency than they were last year. I don't think that they're going to be in a, knock on wood, wishing on a star to sign Shaq Leonard in the middle of the season this year. And then I should also say Oren Burks, who has been injured all of camp and was the 3rd linebacker for the Niners last year, returned to practice, finally was a part of team drills today, was working with the 3rd team primarily, but some reps with the 2s. I think it's possible that he sticks around on maybe the practice squad week 1 and then is signed. I think they have more mediocrity at linebacker than they have had last year, and I think that's a good thing.
If these are all dart throws, like last year they were taking 10 steps back to try and make that dart throw. Yeah. Right? These have a better chance. They were
taking 3-pointers. Now these are mid-range jumpers. Yeah.
All right. Well, I feel better about that then. It's like, look, last year they were signing guys, who were free agents at this point, and guys who were retiring, and
yes,
it was bad. You answered my second question there too. You do think Vic Fangio is going to blitz more? Because all I hear about is that these guys can blitz.
I think a little bit more. Yeah. I think, the numbers prove it out that Devin White was one of the best linebacker blitzers in the league over the past 2 seasons. Some of that is, I think, because Todd Bowles is very good at that. And he's the guy who blitzed. And so it's maybe a little bit more of a Bowles stat. But I think he can do that. That is Zach Baun's background, so he better be good at it. Yeah. And then Dean and Trotter Jr. have both shown a bit of an aptitude for it. I think Trotter a little bit more.
Okay, fair enough. All right, last one. Secondary. And then we'll get to the Ospreys.
Here we go.
Again, we're turning off the injuries again.
Okay.
Don't want to play with injuries.
Yep.
Video games. Okay, Sunday, November 10th in Dallas. That game is on CBS for some reason, by the way. That's bad stuff there. First off, Tony Romo stinks now. And
yeah, he's not good anymore.
And also, come on, it's got to be a Fox game.
Yeah.
Who are your 3 starting corners that week? Not yours, the Eagles.
Quinion Mitchell.
Outside, inside?
Outside. Cooper DeJean on the inside. And then I mean, it would be Darius Slay if he's healthy, but if I'm betting on whether he's going to make it to November, I don't know if I would. I mean, I'll say Darius Slay, but I think by the end of the season it could just be that future lineup where it's Keely Ringo, Quinion Mitchell, Cooper DeJean.
So Ringo over Rodgers.
I think so. I think long term, yes.
Okay. Yeah, and I mean, like, look, I think. Have you felt that Slay has played well during this training camp?
Yeah, I have. I haven't. It doesn't look like the wheels have come off just yet. But I also don't remember thinking that James Bradbury looked bad last summer. I think we won't know with Slay until we see it in games.
Look, you had the stat that basically nobody his age started games at that position last year, right? It was just Patrick Peterson.
Yeah, I think that's right.
Which is rough.
I think Shield might be yelling because he's a big on that stat too. So he might be saying that's my stat. No, he'll have a chance to yell about it tomorrow.
I miss a couple weeks, and the credit wars have just been raging since I've been here. Okay, and so would you feel pretty good about that lineup at that point of the season?
I don't know.
Yeah,
I hope so. But yeah, I think, young secondaries, they take time, right? It's not a hit the ground running position. It is usually a developmental position. So I think you could be in trouble there. And maybe that's the case for Isaiah Rodgers, is that he provides a little bit more of a known quantity. I'm curious. I think there's a real curiosity for me about the thing that we talked about a lot in the offseason, the tension that Nick Sirianni and Howie Roseman have between Howie saying, like, we need the young guys to play, and Nick doubling down on, like, we got to win this week.
Yeah.
I would imagine, because he's an old school guy, that Fangio would lean more towards the latter. But, like, this secondary is very much a case of, if you get these guys on the field early, maybe that will serve you better at the end of the season. But, Isaiah Rodgers is the one getting the plurality of the reps right now. I don't know that I believe it will carry over to week one, but that's the case at the moment.
What type of corner do you generally like better, the archetype? Like the Isaiah Rodgers, just crazy recovery speed, crazy good athlete, or the Keely Ringo, like I can beat you up a little bit at the same time?
I would say aesthetically, Asante Samuel is my ideal corner. Like the gambler go make a play. Yeah. Absolutely. I think that's my favorite aesthetic version of a corner.
He's very rare though.
Of course. That's what made him awesome.
That used to drive me crazy when people talked about him not being able to tackle. It's like he takes the ball away once every 2 weeks.
Absolutely. It's insane.
Yeah.
Anyway. Yeah, that's the upside. Okay. That was good. I thought that was fun.
I feel like I'm filled in.
All right. Well, let's get to the Ospreys then. Now, as I said, on allphly.com, if you are a diehard, you can vote for the Ospreys. Now, I'm not guaranteeing that the popular vote will be the ones who get the actual award, but you get to be a part of the process. That's what matters. These are the ones that you can vote on. I have saved the top 12 most interesting or important awards to be actually given out on Ospreys afternoon on Thursday at 2:00. But until then, let's run through the ones that you can vote on that we will speed through during the Ospreys. What do we got first, Julia? The Brief Turkey Award for Worst Individual Game Performance by a player from last season. We have the nominees here. Jalen Hurts against the New York Jets, in which he went 28 of 45, had 3 interceptions, and one extremely terrible play. We have Nicholas Morrow against the San Francisco 49ers, a game in which the linebackers were exposed, and Morrow forced Christian Ellis to take the bullet for him. We have Albert Okwuegbunam against the San Francisco 49ers. I looked on True Media. This was the most routes run by any Eagle last season in a game in which they did not have a catch. 28 routes run, 1 target, 0 catches. We have Matt Patricia against the Arizona Cardinals, a game in which he stunk, and Jonathan Gannon
yes, he did.
Got his revenge. And then finally, we have Nick Sirianni and Brian Johnson as a couplet against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, a game in which, despite all the evidence to the contrary, they forgot that other teams were allowed to blitz. So you can vote on that one.
Just a loaded category.
Loaded category, yeah. I mean, the negative categories this year are stacked. Okay, what do we got next? The Wally Pippin Award for the best injury fill-in. We have Jack Driscoll, Christian Ellis, Josh Jobs, Sua Opeta, and Jack Stoll. Now, you will notice Keely Ringo not on this list. I don't view Keely Ringo as an injury fill-in. I think it was they got to the end of the season, we'll let the young guy play. So to me, and I mean, obviously, I'm in the in the camp of Ellis or Sua here, but I would actually vote for Sua.
I think that's a two-man race, for sure.
Next up, the Golden Fruit Dove Award for the player with the most juice. Who had the most juice last season? And I think it's appropriate that Jalen Hurts is not nominated for this category, but some people may disagree with the committee. You have A.J. Brown, Jalen Carter, Jake Elliott, Devontae Smith, and DeAndre Swift. Where would you go here, Handsome Rich?
I never really thought about a kicker having juice, but I mean, he was borderline
last
Eagles
year,
MVP. Some of the kicks. I mean, that kick against Buffalo to tie the game up. Wow. Unbelievable.
I think I can, I don't want to give it away, but I can tell you that kick is nominated for the prestigious Gulitzer Prize for best play of the season.
Did you have to get the 5 names for all of these categories?
Yes.
5?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. That's a tough one. There are a couple ones where it's a stretch.
No offense to DeAndre Swift, who went to school over here. I don't think he
over there.
You make that list.
I think you pulled a Zach.
No, I don't know. Whatever. I was just pointing. I don't think he should have made that category.
Yeah.
I think AJ would be my pick there.
AJ, yeah. I think it's AJ or Jalen Carter for sure.
Yeah.
Next up, the Beautiful Fruit Dove Award for the game that had the most juice.
Ooh, I like this one.
You've got week 2, the Thursday nighter against the Minnesota Vikings. You've got week 7, the Sunday night football game in Kelly Green against the Miami Dolphins. Then you've got that 3-week stretch, the week 11 Monday nighter against the Kansas City Chiefs, the Super Bowl rematch. Then the week 12 overtime game against the Buffalo Bills. And then following that, a lot of juice heading into the NFC Championship rematch, week 13 against the San Francisco 49ers. Which one did you feel like you had the most juice for?
Kansas City.
Super Bowl rematch?
Yeah.
Nick certainly, yelling afterwards. That was his highest juice peak of the season.
Yeah, and that juice didn't backfire on him or anything. I didn't have to see that clip for the next 2 months. But wait, I did.
Yeah. Okay.
Oh well.
Next up, the Rook of the Year. This one feels like a runaway. Sidney Brown, Jalen Carter, Eli Ricks, Keely Ringo, and Ben Van Sumeren.
Ben Van Sumeren's like looking around like, wow, what an honor. I think that one's pretty easy.
I think that one is pretty easy.
Eli Ricks.
And next up, and by the way, thank you to Julia for putting these graphics together. We've got the Goose Egg Award, one of my favorites, for the best Eagle to not play a game for the team. We have Dan Arnold, Rashawn Evans, Miles Jack, Dennis Kelly, and Greedy Williams nominated. That is a great category.
I mean, through the years, you just forget all of the players that come here for a cup of coffee, 2 cups of coffee. I don't know. They got free coffee.
I will say, and I don't know if this is, it's certainly getting older. It's also not being at the games and watching the games on TV for whatever reason. And also maybe just because the season turned out the way it did. I feel like I have much less memory of last season than typical seasons. Also, maybe that's a result of doing this exercise in late August. But the Ospreys are the Ospreys. Okay, what do we have next, Julia? The Baby You Flutter My Bread Award for Best Sponsor. The nominees, FOCO, Game Time, Miller Lite, Shady Rays, and True Mark Financial. I'm excited to see where the voters go for that one.
I think my answer is that all the sponsors are great.
I think they're all great. Why can't we?
Loaded category.
Participation trophy time. How many more do we have left, Julia? 3. Okay. Oh, we got 7 more. Here we go. Rocking and rolling. The Unnecessary Award for Least Essential Player on the 53-man roster all year long. Josh Jobe, Marcus Mariota, Alberto Cuegbanam, Rashad Penny, and Quez Watkins. Another loaded category.
Well, I think that's a 2-man race there. I think the tight end and the running back are
those are good, but I gotta say I feel like you're underrating Marcus Mariota.
Yeah, just had a terrible preseason. Probably would have been terrible if they put him in an actual game. And unlike last year, like Hurts was like, "Look, I'm staying in the game, even though I'm probably a little bit banged up because I have no confidence that this guy's going to do anything." Yeah, no, Mariota was really bad.
All right, next up. The Ugly Duckling Award for person who most surpassed expectations. And this usually is a nice loaded category. To find people from last season's team who overperformed their expectations, very difficult. The nominees, Justin Evans, Braden Mann, Sua Opeta, Eli Ricks, and DeAndre Swift.
Braden Mann, maybe?
I think it might be Braden Mann.
He had like a couple rough punts at the
Looked like
beginning,
a good
and then
punter.
he was very good
Yeah.
by the end of the season. Yeah.
That would be the first time that a punter has won that award. Next up, the Bustard Award for person who most underachieved. James Bradbury, Jordan Davis, Jalen Hurts, Shaq Leonard, and Nolan Smith, the nominees.
I mean, is Bradbury underachieving when he just kind of
the
wheels fall off?
Right. Do you blame him for the tires blowing out? You know, maybe not necessarily, but also hard to.
That's it. Yeah. How much you factor in whether the player is still good or not? I think your answers can be your mileage might vary on what you.
Yes, your own expectations. Yes. Next up, the Pterodactyl Award for best performance by a player 31 years or older, and you want to talk about a loaded category? Here we go. Speaks to the roster composition. Fletcher Cox, Brandon Graham, Jason Kelsey, Lane Johnson, and Darius Slay, all very worthy potential winners.
I mean, they got some great performances from the old guys last year.
Absolutely.
Unfortunately, that didn't take them that far.
Unfortunately, that did not take them very far. Yes, but that's a nice loaded category. Next up, the Owl Be Better Award for player most likely to take a step forward in 2024. Jordan Davis, Nakobe Dean, Cam Jurgens, Tanner McKee, and Keely Ringo.
Loaded category.
Loaded category.
I don't know where to go there. I can make a case for about 3 or 4 guys there,
I think you could. And a lot of the guys we have talked about on this episode. What do we got? 2 left, Julia? 3 left. Exit Stage Flight, the award for the player the team most needs to replace in 2024. You can take this a couple different ways. The options: James Bradbury, Fletcher Cox, Jason Kelsey, Nicholas Morrow, and Quez Watkins.
Oh, I like this. You can go 2 different ways.
Right, yeah. So you could make the Kelsey case. You could make the Morrow case.
I would make the Morrow case.
Yeah, I think that's probably a good case. All right, 2 left. The Come Black Swan Award for the Comeback Player of the Year. And boy, stretching it here as well, Fletcher Cox, Zach Cunningham, Julio Jones, Bradley Roby, and DeAndre Swift. What were they coming back from? Hard to say.
I would hope Fletch gets some awards here.
Well, yeah, but you don't want a controversy, though. You don't want people accusing the journalistic
integrity.
Of PHLY just because we had Fletcher Cox on. Yeah. I'm not going to, I wouldn't tilt the scales, but you don't want the specter of impropriety. But I think that Fletcher Cox has earned maybe a couple Ospreys this year.
Podcasting ethics are very important to us.
That's right. And finally, the Rags to Ostriches Award for Most Improved Player. Devin Allen with a surprise nomination. Reed Blankenship, Cam Jurgens, Sua Opeta, all over the Ospreys. And finally, Devontae Smith. Again, another one where it would have been nice if there were some actual contenders for this category.
I think I would lean Reed there, but I don't feel great about that.
Yeah, that's a tough one. And so this is the chance to rock the vote. We care about democracy here at PHLY, so go ahead and make your voice heard if you are a diehard, at least, on allphly.com. Let us know where you stand on those, and we will run through those during the Ospreys on Thursday, 2 o'clock. Become a diehard. You get all the perks. You get to read all the good stuff. But obviously now, the most important perk, you get to vote on the Ospreys. That'll do it for this episode of the PHLY Eagles podcast. On tomorrow's show, Zach is back, and so is Shil Kapadia. So we're looking forward to that. Have a little reunion episode. And then on Thursday, oh, baby, it's Ospreys time. Very exciting episode. Very much looking forward to your reactions to the Ospreys this year. And finally, Khalif has a super chat, Rich, and I would like to ask this as well. He says he humbly requests a rundown of your Olympic takes.
From my trip?
I don't know. I guess so.
Or do you want me to have a take on Noah Lyles? Or
do you have a Noah Lyles take?
Well, I wish he would just stop talking. He really. I was so excited when he won that race. Yeah. It was an amazing accomplishment. The fact that he's such a slow starter and he just kept going at the end, and then he just keeps talking about the NBA.
I don't understand the NBA beef. It's so silly.
He just
I mean, his point is fine, but the continuing double down of I don't know who Jokic is or whatever.
Well, and then he's like, I hate that Anthony Edwards is more famous than me. It's like, I'm sorry, Noah Lyles. He is more famous than you. It's unfortunate. Unfortunately, in between the 4 years of the 100 meters, Anthony Edwards is going to be more famous than you. It's Tough stuff. Anyway, Khalif, I had a great trip in France. I was just regaling Bo about it.
Sounded fantastic.
Yeah, I went to Nice. I went to Monaco for a few days.
Did you see a Parris Campbell there?
No. It's my limited French accent. I went to Marseille, which in and out of Marseille for a game. Very nice soccer stadium there.
Okay.
And then we did Paris for the last day. And I guess my take would be next time I go to France, instead of traveling all around the country, although Nice was very nice. It was nice little train ride on the
Nice was nice.
Yeah, Nice was
Well
nice.
done,
Yeah, absolutely. I didn't even realize I did that, but even though I probably made that joke 30 times when I was there, I think my take would be I wish I was in Paris longer because
I love it, Paris.
Because honestly, Bo, I was pretty afraid being there in the middle of the Olympics. I was like, man, this place is going to be a zoo. There's just going to be so many tourists. Didn't really feel that way to me. Now, obviously, I didn't have any other frame of reference. I don't know what Paris is like during non-peak time, whenever that might be. But I don't know. It felt like getting around the city was pretty easy. Took a nice little ride on the Seine, did all the touristy things. But I wish I did more, I guess I would say. So next time I go to France, instead of going all around the country, the south of France, I think I might stay in Paris for a few days.
I like that.
Yeah.
I mean, I love it, Paris.
Yeah.
I had a follow-up, and I've forgotten it. What were you talking about?
Just about the entire country in France.
It was a good one too, and I've let the listeners down and the viewers. I'm sorry. What a bad job by me. Nice was nice.
Nice was nice.
Yeah. Okay.
A headline.
All right. What was it? I don't know. Sorry.
Until next time.
Yeah, I guess this is gonna ruin my day, but here we are. All right,
I'll answer it for you later if you figure it out.
We'll open up the show with it tomorrow. That'll be fun. Okay. Well, Rich, thank you so much for spending your time with us today, regaling us. What a pleasure. We look forward to the next time we get to talk to you, and we look forward to the next time we get to talk to you, sickos. That'll be tomorrow at 2:00 right here on PHLY. Thanks to Julia and everybody else for making it happen. We will talk to you tomorrow. And as always, we love you.
We all silly like the mayor.